Hey guys, so glad to see you. We're here with another book by Angela Carter. Yeah, I know last time I brought you some Jeanette Winston, and we've been working our way through Angela Carter for a while now. Angela Carter being, of course, a really significant writer in English literature and a significant influence on Jeanette Winston as a writer. But we'll get to which book that is. Before we get there, there's our shop. Check that out. We have loads of great things, loads of books, loads of stuff on the Redbubble store. Check it out. Go on. You'll find something there, I'm sure. Lots of things to help you with your writing as well. So that's in our shop. And our book for the week is Angela Carter's Wise Children. This is Angela Carter's Magnum Opus. It's actually her final book. It was published in 1991, and Angela Carter died at the age of 51 in 1992, leaving behind her husband and their young son. So this is an absolutely amazing book. It's a brilliant book. It's considered by many to be her greatest book ever. I know there are earlier ones, but that are really big and very celebrated. But this is a book that brings a lot of the things that she's very interested in all together in one book. And it's about Dora and Nora Chance, two identical twins who are showgirls. They are chorus girls in vaudeville, in theatre, in light theatre, in pantomime, and they are the daughters, the unacknowledged, illegitimate daughters of Melchior Hazard. Melchior Hazard is the son of a famous Shakespearean couple, a Victorian Shakespearean couple who died. Okay, the husband murdered the wife and her lover and killed himself, leaving his children, Melchior and Peregrine Hazard, at 10 years old, orphaned in the world. Melchior goes back to England with an aunt. Perry disappears off into America, and Melchior, as a young man coming to London to be to go into theatre like his father, to follow in his father's footsteps, stays at Grandma Chance's boarding house for theatrical talent, where he sleeps with the chambermaid, Pretty Kitty, and she has Nora and Dora Chance. Kitty dies, and they are brought up by the owner of the house, who they call Grandma Chance. She gives them her surname because Kitty dies when they're born. She brings them up as dancers, and they find fame, or at least an ability to earn income, as identical twin dancers. All the while, they have their wonderful Uncle Perry drop in and support them when he can, but are sort of on the periphery of this Hazard family. The Hazard family, Melchior Hazard goes through 3 wives. He has 2 more sets of twins. Twins run in his family, though we later on find that there is questions around the paternity of at least one set of those twins. It's a fascinating book. It takes you from the music halls of London to Hollywood, where we meet one of Melchor's second wife, back to the music halls and the war and the steady, slow decline of that genre of theatre. Meanwhile, their father is making ever more rises through the roles as a Shakespearean, meets his third wife, who happens to be the best friend of his daughter, and eventually becomes a well-known person on television, generally advertising things. He makes and loses fortunes. It's a fascinating book just in that way. I just reread this. I had read it when I was in my 20s, and now I have reread this at an age much closer to Angela Carter's age when she wrote this than I was when I first read it. And it certainly makes for a different reading experience, reading it at that age than the age I was when I first read it. And I think it certainly is a book written by a woman who has lived. Because the Chance girls, Dora and Nora, it does some very interesting things. Firstly, this is told by Dora Chance. Dora Chance is working class, and she is writing her memoirs, as it were. Their birthday, their 75th birthday, which they share with their father and uncle, who are turning 100, and Shakespeare, the 23rd of April. This is no coincidence, because this book is absolutely suffused with Shakespeare. Shakespeare has twins. His twins have a tendency to be, in Twelfth Night, a boy-girl twin. There are two sets of twins in A Comedy of Errors, which they're both male twins. But in Twelfth Night, you have boy-girl twins, which, of course, Shakespeare, we know, had a mixed pair of twins. These twins are rather mirror their legitimate twins in a ghostly way. The twins that their father had with his first wife, they go from success to success and are more Goneril and Regan. Whereas the Chance twins are more, their world is a declining one. They haven't got a career with the prestige that can build them up the money the same way that the more legitimate theatre side of their family can. They are also the good girls. They're the Cordelia. The comfort in their father's old age, especially when we get to the end of the novel. This book tells a lot about how women are devalued as they age. It's not a coincidence that so much of the book talks about clothing, talks about makeup, talks about the gifts that are bestowed on youth and beauty, and the lengths that women will go to hold on to that youth and beauty. There's a producer in Hollywood whose name is Genghis Khan, whose first wife, having been discarded for being older, is so devoted to him that she is willing to have herself become a grotesque approximation of Dora when he goes to marry her as his third wife, but when Dora finds the first wife, this first wife who still loves her husband so much that she has gone to this great length, that she puts the first wife in her place in the wedding, so that the producer discovers himself not married to Dora, but married to his first wife, who has created an approximation of Dora just for him. You have the character known as Wheelchair, who's actually Lady Hazard, the first Lady Hazard, who Melchior throws over for Daisy Ducks, the producer's second wife, whom he divorces to marry Dora, only to find himself married to his first wife, which is a very much ado about nothing Shakespearean element to that. There is a lot of little tiny, if you know your Shakespeare, you will get a lot of little references to things inside this play. Or it's either you could say it's either much ado about nothing or a measure for measure, as in the slime bag who ends up sleeping not with the nun but with his ex and forced to marry her. The book does hit very hard on the fact that for many of these women, in fact for all of these women, until we get to the later generations, the generations who are born in who were coming of age in the latter part of the 20th century, so in the 60s, the 70s, finding stability with a man is the best stability that these women have. The chance girls don't marry. They don't marry, although Nora would desperately love to have children. Dora not really, but Nora absolutely desperately wants to have children herself. But for many of these women, their lives are tied to the men. Lady Hazard, although she has money herself, is still devoted to her husband, Melchior. In fact, she goes to great lengths to procure him children, because apparently he wasn't really capable of managing that, which you find out at the end of the book, that whole story, though it is hinted at that this is the case throughout the novel, so it's not a giant spoiler. And there is a list in the back of all the characters and how they relate to each other, which, if you've never read this before, can be a bit of a godsend, because it gets a little confusing, because you have siblings who are in their 70s and in their 40s and in their 60s because of the multiple wives, half siblings across many decades. Lady Hazard is abused by her daughters and brought in by the chance girls, where she transmogrifies into Wheelchair. So if you're wondering when you're reading, not that you wonder very much, because Dora is constantly explaining these things, but they affectionately call her Wheelchair after she has let's call it an accident until you read the book, and loses the capacity to walk. She is brought in as these. It is very much as these women are rejected, they are brought into the chance household. So as men discard the women in their lives, they start to come together as as there is, as they become older, as they become less desirable, as they become less marketable, you get this group of women who've come together, which is really interesting, because that's one of the things that you definitely see throughout this book, is the way that in order to create or maintain power, the patriarchy forces women to compete against one another. Because if women are busy making each other their enemies, then you have no sufficient force to oppose the real power that is making you powerless. Angela Carter is a very, very feminist writer. So it's not for nothing that as the women age, as society sees them as less valuable, they start to move together. The women who are still seen as having value, as still being attractive, as still having something on offer in the sexual marketplace, are separate and solo. It's the women who have been discarded, the chance girls, after vaudeville has dried up, come together. They once they're no longer able to model or dance or anything else, they teach. They bring in Lady A, wheelchair, when she is no longer able to support herself. They bring her into their home. They bring Tiffany. Tiffany is the daughter of Brenda, who is the daughter of Cynthia. Cynthia is a girl who comes to the Chances because Uncle Perry found her and has brought her to Grandma Chance. Grandma Chance is this first woman who is outwardly of no power. She has a house that is rapidly losing borders. She sends the two little Chance girls out to make money by performing in theatre, because it's in there, it's what she knows, it's what she understands, and they want to do it, and she doesn't have any other choice. She doesn't exploit them, she gives them a career, but they are basically keeping themselves from the age of 12, because these are women who don't have a lot of power. They do have agency, but they don't have a lot of economic power apart from what they can sell in terms of their looks. The Chance girls, as young women, don't fully understand that the power that their youth and beauty bring them is transitory. As they grow older, they feel ashamed and regret the derision that they gave to their grandmother. They feel, oh, we thought we were indestructible, but this happens to everyone. Everyone gets old and everyone stops being young and pretty. And that's something that only a woman who has lived decades can fully appreciate and write. And it's why this book reads differently now than when I read it when I was in my 20s. Because I would say there's about 15 years between when I read this first and now. And that changes. It changes the way that you read things, especially reading these narrators who are older women. I notice a lot of the things, when people talk about Angela Carter, they talk about the Magic Toy Shop. They don't talk about her more mature works. And that's because a lot of the people who are talking about Angela Carter are very young. Magic Toy Shop talks to you when you're in your early 20s. This one talks to you as you get into your 30s and beyond. Now you thought I was going to tell you how old I was, didn't you? The other great character, the greatest character in this, the big, huge, funny character. This is Shakespearean after all. These are Shakespearean actors, the Hazards. Not an actor, but taking the part of one of the great comic characters is Uncle Perry. Uncle Perry is Falstaffian in his scale, in his exuberance, in his life. And this is a Falstaff who never hears. Though actually I think you could say he does hear. Halfway through the book, I think Uncle Perry gets his "I do not know you, old man" from Henry IV, Part 1. Oh, Part 2, sorry. The "I do not know you, old man" from the end of Henry IV, Part 2. But he bounces back. He bounces back. Because you can't put down such a character. Because if we all know our Shakespeare, even Falstaff can put a good gloss over the top of Henry's public rebuke. At least until he gets to Henry V. Then, well, the clown had left the company and Shakespeare killed the clown. Which is why Henry V and Julius Caesar don't have a clown part. Her Infernal Majesty isn't the only one who knows a thing or two about Shakespeare. So, wise children, read it. It is the great final masterwork of a writer who died far too soon. That's the other thing I'd say. Keep away from the cigarettes. Keep away from the cigarettes. 51 is far too young to die of something entirely preventable. She should be with us now. She should be with us now. So don't smoke. It's not cool. It just robs us of people whose talent we should still be able to enjoy. But there you go. She did go out on a high. Sadly too early. But if you want to check it out, Wise Children, the magnum opus of Angela Carter. And I will see you again later with another work. Peace and love, guys. Peace and love. If you would like to support this channel, come across to the Black Cockie Press website, www.blackcockiepress.com.au, where you will find books and other writing services to help with your writing.